Hello and welcome back to the Millennial and the Mom. I'm Maddie, the Millennial.
Hi, I'm Katie, the mom.
Mom, this is kind of a late night recording session for us.
Well, okay, first of all, we're actually on the same time zone, so that's an improvement. I mean, it's getting a little bit late. It's almost 9 p.m. And, I do like an early bedtime, but I'm feeling good. I'm on East Coast time right now, so I've got the energy for it.
I know, and well, we're not going to even get into it because it's just would require its own episode backstory. We'll do more of a recap when you're done. But you're in the middle of yours and Dad's 2 month road trip, so you're recording this from your hotel room. And where are you guys? Ann Arbor,
We're
Michigan?
currently in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Yes.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, we'll just save that little tidbit for an episode down the road. But I know. Well, we're tonight's episode, hopefully it will be fun, lighthearted. We're just gonna be just two gal pals chatting, but we're gonna dive into all things interior design trends, how we're finding our own interior design style, and why you, as you say, why everyone is painting their house white.
I mean, not only painting their houses white, most everything in your apartment is white, including your dog. But I just saw an article about this. It was either the Wall Street Journal or New York
I
Times.
read the same article.
I think I sent it to you. But honestly, this is a thing. People are going all in on like white houses. And you know what? This spring we went to that place down on the Gulf Coast.
Rosemary Beach.
No, the one that's all white is the Elise Beach or Alice Beach. I don't know how you say it,
Mm-hmm.
but everything there is white, and there's like standards around how white the community has to be. And I mean, I'm just gonna say I'm not sure it just applies to the houses, but different
Oh
episode.
my God, different episode. But yeah, well, I also read, I think you did send me that one. The one I thought you were gonna say was I just read one like the other week about gray houses, and now like it's called millennial gray, and it's like you go in and it's like gray flooring, gray walls, gray
Mhm.
furniture.
Apparently it's out.
Yeah, I don't like gray. Well, my house is all white. So
No, I love gray as an accent. I do agree if you get the wood floors that have that real gray tone, you
no, get
might
get out of
eventually.
here.
Okay, well, I mean, it happens to people. Let's not, well, everyone's got their different styles,
No,
but
sorry. If that's your flooring, I'm sure it looks great in your house.
yeah. So I do agree, it's hard, and I think we're going to get into it in this episode. It's like, how do you balance the trends with timelessness?
I know. And that's something I think is like, can anything really be timeless? I think I'm leaning towards yes. I'd be curious to hear your answer. But I think let's start with like, so you're obviously, I've had like, I guess I decorated my room growing up. I decorated my dorm in college, like my first
Oh God,
apartment,
dorm decorations, different episode because
different
that's a whole
episode.
vibe. Yes.
But I'm like what we talked about on one of our first episodes, it's like buying a house, and we did that, and now like we're really getting to make it our own as much as you can in 700 square feet. But how, like, you've been at this much longer than I have. You've had many different houses, many different states, eras, style phases. Like, do you feel like your interior style and like what you buy and what you like has really changed over the years, or has it stayed pretty consistent?
No, it's absolutely evolved. And it's really funny that we're talking about this because I just had a conversation with your father, my husband of 30 years, about this. But when we were early in our marriage, like our first house, I mean, our first house was very, DIY. Like I
Was it a house or
stenciled.
an apartment? Like your
Well, no,
first house you owned?
yeah, we had several apartments, right? We had several apartments. We had a grad school apartment. We had our first apartment when we were married. I mean, we
Yeah.
we had some apartments, but then our first house we owned, where we really could put our stamp on it, we I mean, I stenciled your guys' bedroom. There was like a bit of a wallpaper thing going on.
Hmm.
We did it was very like just do it yourself, right? And I will say this was late 90s, mid to late 90s in Atlanta. We were living in Atlanta at the time. There was a whole color scheme that I took there that kind of carried me through maybe the next, 8 to 10 years, which was a real gold undertone and warmer
Blue.
woods and also like a reddish kind of
Oh.
color. And that really, and the reason I say that is because I just looked the other day. I was telling your father that we need to
Mhm.
purge a lot of our stuff. Like well, we're going to have a minimalism podcast episode, but
Yeah.
I don't feel like, I mean, we've moved so much. We can't
You
be
don't
like,
feel like you need to purge?
no, I do feel like I need to purge, but
Oh,
I'm
I
saying,
was gonna be like, that is an intervention.
okay, we move a lot and we have purged a lot, but so
That's true.
there
It's
are
true.
not 30 years of stuff piled up in our house, but you can always
No.
purge and edit. I think edit is the appropriate word now. But I was looking at our bookcases the other day before we left on our 2-month road trip, and there was an arrangement on the bookcase. It's like a ceramic, some sort of like
I
basket,
know
ceramic
exactly what you're
basket.
talking about.
I know you
Yeah.
do. And I just want to tell you about this. This was like I
For
had
for the
arrived.
listeners, it's like it's gold and red. There's a handle on it. I think it's
Like
red
silk
flowers, and it's kind of like
flowers.
a yellowy gold vase with red flowers, right?
Okay. So I got that when we lived in Connecticut. Now we lived in Connecticut over 20 years ago. I got that for some room we were decorating. And I'm going to tell you something. I thought I had arrived as a person. I had this vessel that I had bought somewhere, and I went to this
Was it
place.
expensive?
I
I
mean,
remember going with you, and they were
I
they,
know
they were going to set the flowers for you, the fake flowers.
they arranged
This
them
is a
for me.
core memory I have.
Okay. So it
Yeah.
was like, I want to say this cost me $150. And I thought this was like the biggest decorating purchase I had made. And it was going to match like everything we're doing in that room. Here's the takeaway from this story, when the listeners are probably like, what is she even talking about? Is that
All of
I
our
have
many
to
listeners.
I have to let, yeah, our 4 listeners, most of whom are family members. I have to let this flower arrangement go, because here's the thing. It does not match my style. I've had it for 20 years. If you amortize $150 over 20 years, I've gotten my, my money's worth out of this. I can let this go
Are
and
people
just like,
telling you can't throw this vase out?
no, but I'm feeling like, oh my gosh, I have this memory of like, spending all this money to have this custom arrangement made to
Sister,
match the
I
colors.
think you spent more money on shit on Amazon last week. I think you can let this be.
I know. I know. So what I'm
If
saying
you
is
had
it's
told me
like,
this was a $10,000 vase that like was an
it's
heirloom, I'd
not.
say
It
like,
was probably $150. But anyways, that is all to say that of course our decorating style has evolved. And for us, honestly, it's been kind of easy for it to evolve because we've moved so many damn times. So
yeah.
every time we move, I have a blank slate. So we just moved into a new house, like 3 years ago, because of course we're living, somewhere new state. And I got to paint. I what I have done in most houses we bought is I come in and I paint everything before we move in. I have the whole house painted, and I did
Mm-hmm.
the same thing with this one. But 20 years ago, I had this certain color that I always put on the walls. It was a very goldy kind of, it was a neutral, but it had like a gold undertone to like a taupe. And I didn't do that this time. I did
Huh.
a gray. Well, now we just talked about gray. I guess it's already dated, but it's a very light gray,
No. Yeah,
agreeable
no.
gray from Benjamin Moore, I think.
No, I think the paint color is very nice. Yeah, I think it's interesting that you say that because and there's a whole thing that like I try or like I'm trying to like reconcile with as I kind of think about what I want my design style to be. And like I really am someone who like as an interest and a hobby, I really like interior decorating. I always have. At one point before I went to college, I think I was like considering majoring in interior design. Like I would love when we got like the Pottery Barn teen catalog, or like I'd go through like the Restoration Hardwood catalog you get, and like all of that. So like I definitely like care about it more than many people probably. But do you think, because you've lived in a lot of different states, a lot of different style homes, like just for the listeners, like you lived in a few houses in Atlanta, very traditional houses. We lived in like a split level in Virginia. We
I
lived
love
in
that
like,
house.
I know you did. We lived in more of like a traditional kind of just suburb style northeastern house in Connecticut. And then you guys live in this more like stucco southwestern Mediterranean style, maybe house in Dallas. So do you think it's important for like how you decorate a house to kind of match the style house you're in? For example, like if you were in a really traditional kind of style, like Cape Cod house, and your style was really like mid-century modern, do you think that kind of clashes?
So much. I think you can blend it. I mean, I don't think you should go completely modern if you're in a traditional house. Can you bring in some transitional pieces to kind of bridge it? Of course. It depends a lot on woodwork and what type of like
Hmm.
fixed things are in the houses. But no, I there definitely are styles that go with different parts of the country, different style homes. But we live, I don't even know what I would say the style of our outside of our houses right now. It's a little more like French provincial, or I don't even know what it would be.
I don't
But
think so. I don't know.
it's got
It's
that little
stucco.
railing on it though. It's got that
Yeah,
weird
no,
railing.
yeah, I don't really know what that's doing up there, but
I don't either. I don't either.
it's not like
Anyways,
you're in a like a New England bungalow or
no.
something. You're in more of a yeah, some type
I,
of southwestern influence.
yeah, and
And
I think
your
we tend
neighborhood
to,
has a lot of houses with that type of style,
that's
where it's
true.
like the
And I,
stucco, the
yes,
you're also it's like the landscaping you can do because you're in Texas and it's that
right,
climate. Like you're
right.
kind of limited by that factor.
But I mean, it's interesting because as we are, I mean, why not be a little bit like in upheaval about where to live right now because of some changes? As I've looked at, all sorts of Zillow listings, which I'm obsessed
Hmm.
with, sometimes I do look at a house, I'm like, ooh, wow, it's like super traditional. Like, could I do that? How would I make that house my own if it's like a really traditional style,
What do you mean really traditional?
like a colonial, right?
Oh, you
Like,
don't
right.
like that?
No, I like it, but I look at what we have right now. We have very high ceilings. It's pretty open, right? We have a real open concept flow. So
Hmm.
I look at some of the, like your older sister, she lives in a very traditional, what is that called? Like a 4 room, it's like 4 rooms on the first level, 4 rooms on the second level, type of colonial.
Yeah.
And she's done a beautiful job with it, but that's very different than our house right now. So if we got a house like that, it would feel different. And like, would my stuff fit in it? I don't know.
Yeah, and we can get into it. And I think why I was asking the question is more so because as I like evolve and think about what I like and what I gravitate towards, like I think my style has a lot of like California influences and coastal things I like, and those that color tone palette. But I live in this really urban area in the Northeast, so I'm like I I follow people on Instagram who live in this broader area that do it and they do it really well. And it's like obviously your style or your house is going to look different than if you lived in like Newport Beach or whatever. But it's kind of like, okay, like, but like you just said, like if I move out into the suburbs and I'm in this like really kind of traditional style house and like I want it to look very beachy is not the right word because that's not really my style, but
But
like,
like
a lot of like
California
light
coastal.
wood,
Yeah.
like yes, exactly. Light wood, like the photo I have behind you right now on Zoom, it's like a coastal type photo. So it's like that kind of stuff. It's like, does it match the broader house? But it's like, does it matter? Because it's like if you like it and it's fine. Like no one, there's no like house police. Like you can do whatever you want.
Right. And I think you're getting at a bigger question, which is, do you decorate your home for yourself or do you decorate? I think the biggest issue, and there was another article just about how HGTV is ruining all of us. And I will say for the record, I'm an enormous HGTV fan. So, but it
Mm-hmm.
is saying like it's made us all think that like we had to be decorating our houses for resale. It's always about resale. And like, what are you going to get out of it? So it's like, well, what if you do something super custom to your house? Well, if you're not going to move from your house for 30 years, go for it. In our situation, we have
Mm-hmm.
moved a lot. So it's a good thing we haven't done super custom things because we end up in these situations where we end up moving to another state, another part of the country. So I think it depends a little bit. Ultimately, a home is to be lived in. It's to be your home. You should decorate it in the way you want to live. And I think the other thing too is there's no right or wrong. I mean, if you're someone who loves mid-century modern, go all in on mid-century modern. If you're someone who loves color, go all in on color. And I do find there's a little bit of a bias, right? People who love color they really think that people who like all neutrals are like less than. And I have a real problem with that because too much, I mean, I get overwhelmed if there's like color everywhere. It's like there's no white space, there's no break. I don't know where to
Yeah.
look. It's not right. But I think sometimes, I mean, this is my own personal opinion, but that people that decorate with a lot of color think that people who don't decorate with a lot of color are like copping out or they're not being as creative. And I don't think that's true at all.
Yeah, like my younger sister Meredith, who she's listening to this, thinks like I'm so boring because my apartment's all white, but I'm not. But I will say I have this kind of internal struggle in my mind because we're going to get like we can kind of transition into like how you can like budget for your style and like what you want to do in your space like at all kind of different levels. But something I'm thinking about now is like we've been in our apartment for almost I guess a little over a year and a half at this point. We just had this major meltdown of our HVAC system and we had to get that all replaced, which was like really expensive and not fun. But now we have a brand new beautiful system that hopefully will keep
And
us
you had
cool.
budgeted and you knew that was going to happen. So thank God.
Yeah. But it did end up costing, like we got quoted 6 months ago and they said it was going to be like really expensive and not that it was cheap when we just had it done, but it ended up coming in because of the, like, it ended up completely breaking. It's July right now. We're in the middle of a heat wave in the Northeast and it broke. And so we were like, the model we had, the company was going to have to order that same brand. And it was like, if you know anything about HVAC, it was like Carrier, which I guess is like the top of the line brand for that type of system. And they're like, we're going to have to order it. We don't have it in stock. And we were like, what do you have in stock? So they ended up using a more budget friendly model. And so we saved money. And so now, like, we have this extra money that we'd set aside for this big replacement that we did. And so now I'm thinking, like, there are some other things in the apartment, like more fun stuff that I'd like to do. Like, I want to get like new kitchen counters and our, kitchen cabinets are a little like dinged up. And I'm like, oh, we could get them like painted or something. And it's like, we're hopefully like down the road in a few years, like whenever this apartment, like we outgrow it or, we no longer want to live and we want to like move out to the suburbs or something, we like want to rent it out. And so I'm like, okay, whatever decisions we make, I feel like they need to be a little bit like safe and not super
Yeah.
like not custom, but like super, my taste and my style, because it's like we will, if we want to rent it out, like we want it to appeal to the masses and
Right.
not have them be like, oh, they painted the kitchen cabinets dark green. Like I want a white kitchen or I want something more neutral. So I do
Right.
feel like, yes, while we own this, like I don't necessarily like feel like I can, test things out because it's not going to be like that type of 30 years, like you mentioned, living in one space.
Yeah, I agree. And I know that you guys are eventually thinking that that will become a rental property that you own. And I do agree. It's like you want to keep it middle of the road, right? Because you don't want to put top of the line everything into a property that's
No.
eventually going to be a rental. And you don't want to get so custom that the people who eventually rent it, whether that's in 2 years or 5 years or whatever, can't, have it fit their needs. So I definitely agree with that. And I think as well, like some of the bigger pieces, like I know you got a new sofa in the last year, you kept
Mhm.
it very neutral because you can always change up with like accent pieces, with your throws, with your pillows, with your rugs, things like that. So I don't think it's a bad idea to keep, some of the base parts of your decorating style, fairly neutral. I mean, you don't necessarily want every cabinet to be white in your house, or you don't want,
You mean
well,
not like all of my white cabinets and my white
well,
bathroom vanity and my white
okay,
doors?
I
Like,
will say if I was in 700 square feet, I would keep it white as well, right?
well, that's the
But
thing too I struggle with is because so I was actually just talking to Drew about this tonight because when you guys come in a few weeks, you said you have that Home Depot gift card that you haven't
we do
spent
have
and
a Home Depot gift card that has your name on it.
I know. And I was telling him what I was going to buy with the Home Depot gift card because I always joke with Drew, like, I'm like, don't go touch my tools. Like, those are my tools. Like, I am the DIY person. Like, not that Drew's not handy. Like, he like has definitely been able to fix things like when I haven't been able to. But I like more so like seek out DIY projects. And I'm like, no, like, I know how to use a Craig jig for a pocket hole. And he's like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, what? I don't even know what that is. And so I was telling him like what we needed from Home Depot for these like couple projects I have. And I was telling him, I was like, paint is going to be involved. Like, I want to build in these IKEA bookcases we've got. Like, we got the most recent one a couple months ago, but we've had other ones for like a year. And I'm like, I want to build them in, but that means like I'm going to be adding trim to them and it's going to be wood. And so I'm going to have to like either color match it to the color of the like IKEA finish, or we could paint the whole thing. And I was like, if we paint the whole thing, like I would do like a steely blue or like a gray. I know you're
Hold
shocked. He
on.
was shocked
Hold
too.
on. A color other than white?
I know, but then I was saying like it's gonna look kind of weird because it's such a small space and our kitchen cabinets are white. So I kind of feel
Mm.
like we need to keep it all white, which is one part of apartment decorating. Like if you have a whole home, I feel like
It is different. Yeah.
you can take more risks because it's like, no, this is the guest bedroom or this is the living room that's not like super open concept. So it's like it's okay
Yeah.
if it's more of like bright and whatever. It doesn't have to necessarily be matchy matchy. But when it's such a small space, I kind of feel like it would look weird. Like it all needs to be the same color.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, in our house, I mean, I have my own office behind closed doors and it's all done up. It's in a
It
blue
looks like a
color.
baby boy's nursery blue.
I love it. It's got a baby blue walls. I've got a blue upholstered chair. I have white, built-ins with gold hardware. I've got a very fancy chandelier, but that's not, I
I
mean, it
like
does.
it.
I know
It
you.
would be so
I love it.
overwhelming.
I love it. And but the thing is, it's a separate room. So I walk in there. It's my room. It's my style. It's not permeating the whole house. So I do agree. Like it's very different because you are in a very compact space. It serves multiple purposes, like each space you have. And of
Yeah.
that, I mean, there's two spaces. There's like a living area and a bedroom. So I mean, you probably have to have a little bit more cohesiveness just to make it feel more spacious. And your apartment feels extremely spacious. I mean, so I think you've done an incredible job. I will just insert my opinion. I do not think you should spend any time or money building in all of those IKEA cabinets you've got. And I think they look wonderful. I don't think that building them in is going to be a big game changer. For instance, however, changing the countertops in your kitchen, big game changer. I'd put the money towards that.
Yeah. Well, the budget for the IKEA DIY was like $300. It's not like I'm like spending $10,000 to have custom built-ins.
Yeah, but how much is it to change your countertops?
Like $3,000, I think.
Okay, okay, different. I see. I
No,
see.
and I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, so we're evaluating like several different things. But you just brought up a good point, and it's something I think, and I feel like I always have kind of had this opinion. I don't think it's just because I live in a small space, but I really think about like when I think about, okay, I'm going to do something in the bedroom or I'm going to do something in the living room, like I want it to still flow. Like when you walk into a house, I want it to feel really cohesive. Do you, when you make decisions about your bedroom or your office, like, do you think about how that plays into the broader kind of style of the house?
Yes and no. I mean, we redid our master bedroom in the house we live in, and I'm sure you're horrified, but I mean, we put chrome accents in there because the light fixtures I liked were chrome and the handles on the built-ins are chrome. And that doesn't mean I'm going to put a chrome hardware everywhere else in my house. I mean, that's a separate room. It's like a whole suite, but I have black hardware in the bathroom off that room. That doesn't bother me because they're kind of separate spaces. So now, would I have put a chrome light fixture, a couple of chrome light fixtures, chrome, side table lamps, and then would I put gold on the built-ins all in the same room? No. But within a room, it should feel cohesive. But I don't think you should go room to room and be like, oh, this is my, I've got like Louis the 15th, or I don't know what that is, but some like really traditional French provincial furniture in one room, and you go into the next room and it's like mid-century modern. That's too much, right? I think it should.
Yeah.
I tend to probably, I mean, I think you might label my style more transitional, right? I've got some more contemporary, some more traditional, and kind of, I would say that's
Or more,
more
I feel like your style is just more like scattered, not in like a bad
so
way.
harsh. It's not scattered.
But I feel like you're someone who
doesn't
like,
give a, you know what?
I don't, I feel like
Where's this going?
or it's more so like, I think, and maybe it's because you're in a much bigger house and it's like, each furniture piece is not so key. Like when we were buying our new sofa, like we were like, this is our seating area.
That's
like,
the only place you have to sit. Yeah.
The exact right size. It needs to be really comfortable. It needs to be in a color like we're not going to get sick of because we literally have to look at it all day. You don't necessarily have that issue. It's like, okay, we can put something new upstairs or whatever. Like I feel like you, and maybe this is just people who have bigger houses in general, like you don't have to think about each one as much. So it's like, oh, I'm just going to buy this. And then it's like, it doesn't like maybe it doesn't necessarily flow as well, but it's like it's fine because you have so many other options to like
Yeah.
put in
Yeah.
this space. Whereas I'm like, no, like I can have like 3 key pieces in my living room. They all need to go together. Not like they
Yeah,
need to
no.
be matchy bedroom set, but I feel like it's a lot more obvious if it like I really wanted a cohesive look and I wanted it like I'm someone who like Drew always laughs at me, but I'm like I derive a lot of energy from my surroundings.
Yes.
Like I want it to like I am here for the vibe. Like I tell Drew all the time, like I am a pretty good cook. Like we talked about like my food blog before. And so when I go out to eat, like I'm not going out for the food. Like I can make good food at home. I'm going out because I want to like get a cocktail and I want it to be like a cute restaurant and like an ambiance. And like Drew's like, I don't think about that at all. Like I'm literally there, like if they have good food. Like
Drew is there for the pizza and the cannolis.
that's exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, like I get a lot of energy from like my surroundings. And
so wait, Maddie, I have to pause for a second. So help me understand what was the energy you were getting in high school from your surroundings.
oh, from our Victorian
From your
Winchester
room, which was a mess.
Okay, I didn't say I'm a clean freak. I think it's funny though because like if we brought Drew in right now and we like told him like is Maddie clean? He would be like, yeah, she like gets on me about like having my shit organized.
I know it was kind of actually I feel bad. I feel a little bit bad. I should apologize.
I think I was actually crying out for help and it was
you were
just
you were a normal person in a household of extreme type A hyper organized people. And so you seemed
yes.
like you were more disorganized because the rest of us were probably had a problem the other direction. So yeah,
yes.
we probably gave you a lot of crap for it. And I do apologize for that.
I literally got kicked out of my room. You made me switch rooms with Meredith.
Oh, no, I didn't make you. I switched your room with Meredith because I didn't want to have to walk by and look at your messy room. So I made you go to a room.
It wasn't even messy. It was like, okay, guys, I would take off like a sweatshirt or a jacket, or I'd like be like, again, all of this is happening when I'm in like 8th grade, when like things are just not going well for most people. Not like anything was like going wrong, but it's just like, you're just like 13 and like,
yeah,
life is so hard.
It's rough.
And I'd like be like changing for swim practice and I'd like leave my school clothes on the floor. It wasn't like I'd left 10 days worth of clothes on the floor and like it'd be like, oh my God, there goes Maddie again, like not picking up her room, like, or like, oh my God, she didn't make her bed, and be like Saturday and be like, oh, okay. So that is a different episode though. That is not interior design. I would scroll, or not scroll, I guess I would flip through those PB teen catalogs. And I remember one year I got like new bedding for my birthday. That was exciting.
That was exciting.
So I was like, I was still getting my energy from my room.
Yes. No, I know. But honestly, the PBT catalog, that was a bit rough because I mean, there was a lot of stuff in there like that really made you want, I mean, those lofted beds with the desks underneath. I mean, that catalog had some good stuff in there, most of which you didn't get, but it was, kind of the beginnings of wanting to shape your space to create a certain vibe. And I think that has become very, very important to people, right? I mean, and that's kind of the whole HGTV thing, right? Is like you've got all these, redecorating shows, but like, have we gone too far? Are we always looking to curate our space to the point that we're not really sure when we should stop and just be happy with our space as it is?
No, I think, because I think about that a lot, because I do, some of it's living in a small space. I know we were just talking about how you guys thought I was just such like a freaking slop growing up, but I am a pretty neat person, and living
you are. I do say you keep that space tight.
Living in a small space with 2 people and a dog, like it is so easy to like leave things out on the counter and all of that. And it's not like it's necessarily like when you and dad, like you both have like bedrooms that are offices in your house, like you can close the door and it's like, you know what, I don't need to look at this right now. Like we don't have that luxury. So I do feel like it's made me become much more organized. And we also like, we don't have, I mean, we have a lot of stuff, but like we like when we were doing our wedding registry, it was like one thing came in from the registry and like we had to like donate one thing, because I was like, we don't have room to like be having duplicates. Like we can have 5 bowls and like that's it. Like we can't, we don't have like all this space to be storing stuff. And so some of that, it's that part, but I think too, like, I do want my space to feel like lived in. Like it's okay. Like our sofa, I was looking at it the other day and we got it delivered in probably March. And it's like this like really big kind of it's from West Elm. It's this sectional, it's white, kind of linen-y fabric. Mainly we got white because, well, I've always wanted a white sofa, but we have a white dog. And so I was like, I just don't want to have to look at the dog hair on the gray sofa anymore. Like I'd rather have a dirty white sofa than be able to see the dog hair. And I
Like a
was looking
wise
at it.
choice.
No, it's been amazing. I was looking at it and I was like, oh, like the cushions are starting to look like we sit on them every day and like that George lays on the shades all day and like all of that. But I was like, I don't mind that because it means it's like getting its use and like we're
Yes.
enjoying the space and like all
Yeah.
of that. But I think there's a difference between it being lived in and homey and like you have like I we like got all of our wedding photos a couple of months ago and I put some like wedding photos on the wall and like not like in a gallery wall or anything, but like tastefully like here and there, like some like family photos and all of that. And like I think it doesn't need to be this totally devoid of personality space. Like you can have like this was my, grandma's piece of art and like stuff that means a lot to you and like still have
Yes.
it be like your style. But
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting a curated space.
I don't think there is either. And listen, I mean, as someone who's like highly organized and I like things to be organized and everything, kind of have its place, I do think it is easier to live when your life is organized. Like I do go
Yes.
into some people's houses
Or
and
not
I'm like,
necessarily even like organized, yes. But I follow this woman on Instagram called the Barda House. Do you follow her?
oh, I do. I do.
And she talks a lot about it's like it's so much easier to have a clean home when you just have less stuff.
Yes.
Like, you
Yes.
don't need, and I feel like sometimes like I was just talking to Abby, like my older sister, the other day, and she's gonna get so mad at me whenever she listens to this episode. But she was telling me like I was on FaceTime and she was showing me her kitchen and she has this like 4-bedroom house in North Carolina. It's just her and her husband, so it's like same number of people that
It's
like
actually
live
a
in my
3-bedroom house, but yes.
okay, 3-bedroom plus an upstairs. But it's she was saying that she was like, what should I do in this area in the kitchen? Because like we're really running out of space. And I was like, Abby, like I love you, but like how are you running out of space? Like people have like a family of 5 in the space you're living in. Like there's 2 of you, you have no pets, you have no kids yet. Like I think you like need to do some purging, like or whatever, the editing, whatever you're supposed to say now, because I was like, you're having a hard time keeping it up because like you don't need that much stuff. Like there's 2 of you.
Well, and just so you know, she talked to us later that day. She goes, "Yeah, Maddie gave me some really hard advice, but I have to take it. I don't need more stuff to organize. I need to get rid of stuff." So the
Yeah.
message got through.
No, I know. And like I feel like that's something I'm really grateful about. And hopefully whenever we move to a bigger space, whether that's like a 2-bedroom apartment or it's a house in the suburbs or we have like so many rooms, like I don't want to lose the skills we've learned here of like not buying stuff. Cause like, and it's not like, it doesn't go everywhere. Like I buy a lot of clothes, not a lot of clothes, but like I buy clothes, I buy like personal care products, stuff like that. But I really don't like, we'll go to Crate and Barrel and I'll be like, oh my God, I really want these mugs or like, I really like this. And I'm like, well, I need to think in my mind, like, do I have 3 mugs I could get rid of? Because like
Right.
we are tapped out of cabinet space in the
Yes,
kitchen.
you're
Or
maxed
I'm
out
like,
of mugs. Yeah.
yes. Or like even like in Target, and this is a kind of a good segue to like our favorite places to shop or our favorite like kind of design lines. But I'll go to Target and I love Studio McGee. Like that is my design style. Like I love that kind of like it's a mix between like California coastal and like transitional, and it's just like neutrals and textures and stuff like that. And so I love her Target line because it's like much more affordable. And I'm not looking for like something I can have for 30 years because I have no idea what my space will look like in like 5 years. But I bought a couple of her furniture pieces, the Threshold Studio McGee collaboration. But I love all of her little decor stuff too. And I always have to tell myself, like, I have these like IKEA bookcases, but like they're all used to like hold things. Like we have one with doors that's like our bar cart, our Tupperware holder, our holds all of our wine glasses. And then we have ones in our living room, but it's like it's holding like all of Drew's like files because he's like self-employed. It's holding like all of our books we have, like our games, our like little Christmas decor basket that we have, like stuff like that, where I'm like, it's not like I have these beautiful shelves that I can
Right.
like style. Like, and so I don't need to be buying that stuff because it's just going to end up cluttered.
Well, and I think that's, I mean, we had that somewhat happen when we put the built-ins into our bedroom. There's parts of it that have sat a little bit empty, and we're like, oh, well, if we're traveling, like, one summer we went up to Maine and we went into this little art shop, and I saw this like little bird that I really wanted, and I was like, oh, that'd be great, we'll put that on the shelves. But I wasn't like immediately running out to TJ Maxx just to fill the shelves, right? So it's like you have to have some space that if you happen upon something that has meaning, then you can buy it and put it in. I absolutely agree with that. And I think as well, when we're on this 2-month road trip, which we'll get into later, but I only have the stuff I brought with me. We left for 2 months. I have a carry-on suitcase and like a tote bag, like that I have my clothes in. I'm getting a little sick of my clothes, but you know what? I have plenty of clothes. I have things to wear. We're doing laundry, but it's making me realize I'm going to go back to like all of these clothes. Do I need all of these clothes? No, because I'm living for 2 months with just the stuff that was in that suitcase.
No, I know. And I feel like this is also now becoming more of like our minimalism episode. But to get back to interior design. So I guess when you're thinking about, you know, okay, you need a new sofa or a new bed frame or whatever, like, do you have your kind of core places you like to shop? Or are you kind of just like going out, searching Google, like, I want a linen headboard, or you're like, I'm going to go to Pottery Barn and just buy whatever they have?
Well, I have stores that I really like. It depends on the piece. Like, I'm very particular about upholstered pieces because I do think like we had an upholstered well, you'll remember it was your entire childhood basically. It was like a sofa with a sectional at the end. We got
The
that thing at
brown one. Yep.
yes, the brown one. In your entire childhood, you had that sofa with the sectional. We had dogs. We had 3 kids. You guys went from little kids to teenagers to college students on that sectional before we replaced it. We had it for like, a good 18 years. It was from Ethan Allen. It was expensive, but when you factor that over 18 years, it was our main piece of furniture. I don't regret a dime I spent on that. We got every single penny out of that. So I will say upholstered items I'm pretty particular about. I pay up for those. So I typically don't do like an IKEA, for an upholstered item.
As someone who spent 2 years on IKEA sofas, I've been there when that's your option, but like
no, I know.
You deserve better. It's been life-changing to have a
Well,
nice
but
sofa.
quite frankly, you'll probably remember from your really early childhood, we had those blue and white striped sofa and love seat that matched that I paid $500 for, and we had them probably for 10 years. So the point being, like, you buy the nicest.
But what's like $500 from 1995 to like 2023? That's probably like buying a $1,500 sofa.
Probably, which
check your boomer privilege.
I will check. Did you say boomer? I am not a boomer. Gen Xer. Thank you very much. But anyways,
you millennials, stop buying coffee and you can afford a sofa too.
Right. So I would say my go-to places, we have some very nice pieces from Bassett. They're not cheap, but they do really last. I like Bassett for upholstered pieces. I would say listen, for our more like case goods, hard goods, tables, I have things from Bassett. I have things from Haverty's. Our dining room set, our dining room table and 6 chairs, not expensive. We bought that at Haverty's. It was not, it's been great.
Well, remember, coming from a place of privilege, not expensive for you.
Right. But that's a dining room table and 6 chairs was probably less than $2,000 over the last 6 years. So, for us, I thought
no. And this is not like shaming you whatsoever, but but I think it's, I would say whatever your budget is, trying to buy the best quality you can, and that will look different at different stages. So like, I feel like, and two, some of it's, my first job out of college, I was in investment banking in Charlotte, North Carolina. Like, I was getting paid the same salary as people who were living in New York. So I was living like a king in Charlotte. Like, I remember I got that signing bonus or whatever, and I went to Pottery Barn and I bought like a headboard, and I did go to IKEA for like my dressers and my nightstands, but then I bought some other like nicer pieces, and I was like, I'm investing, like I can like afford this. But then I only lived in Charlotte for a year, And then I
Right.
moved, and it's really expensive to move your stuff when you're not moving like a whole house. And you're buying paying for the big truck, and you have like three pieces. And I had bought like, I had that nice like Pottery Barn headboard. I bought a Pottery Barn sofa, and then I had like some other things that I had bought. And it's like, I ended up having to sell it all on Facebook Marketplace. Like
I know.
I got like maybe like 65% back on the sofa that I'd had for like 3 months, because it was
Yeah.
kind of a last minute decision to move. And so it's like, yes, it's great if you can afford it, but also think about like, what is the longevity? Like, am I renting an apartment that I think I'm gonna, at least maybe it's even in the same city, but it's like, I looked at a bunch of apartments when we were looking for this one, and like the floor plans were so different than the apartment we were in. It's not all our furniture like was gonna work and stuff like that. So it's like, buy kind of, invest where you can, but also know like, if you're in your 20s and you're moving around a lot, like it's fine. It's okay. Like it's okay to be an IKEA girly. Like I
Oh
have an
yeah.
IKEA dining
Well, but I
table,
mean, even
Target
like
dining chairs. Like
if you
it's
think about
it's
my office, I mean, I do have an upholstered chair from our house, which obviously is a little bit pricier, but
mhm.
one of my absolute favorite things in my office is a Wayfair Lucite. It's like an end table or a side table with
Yeah.
like gold legs. That thing was from Wayfair, and I assembled it. I mean, and same thing like nightstands upstairs. I mean, so I think I look for bargains. I have some things that are very inexpensive. I also have some things that we've had a ridiculously long time, right? That have
Mhm.
moved around with us. And they're not all pricey pieces. They're just things that have stood the test of time, and we've just had them a really long time. And then of course there's always things that I buy that I regret. I mean, I have things in my house right now I wish I hadn't spent the money on. I mean, I would say our kitchen table and our bar stools, if I
Well,
had to do
that's
it,
what I was gonna say is, did you kind of impulse buy those?
I I'm not sure I'd say impulse buy. I wanted those for a really long time. I had looked at them. I really wanted them. They're Benchmade. This really good brand. Um, they're great. I mean, it's not that they're not comfortable.
No,
They're
they're
very
really nice.
functional. They fit the space, but would I have gone with a little bit different style? Probably. And also, I fell prey to the problem of I bought those particular pieces of furniture, the bar stools and the table. I bought those before we moved into the house. I mean, we had bought the house, and I was like, I really need something. I mean, I was like, we need bar stools and we need a table. So I did buy those without really moving into the space and figuring out exactly what I wanted. I mean, they're absolutely fine. They're solid, nice pieces of furniture, but I'll take a big hit on those probably eventually if I have to sell them and get rid of them, just because, they were expensive, and I definitely won't get that money back from them. I'll get the years of use out of them that we've had them, but I probably would choose to do something different if I had to do it now.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's something like, well, some of it too is we're coming off of like COVID still, not, I
Yep.
mean, COVID, not still, but recently it was really long lead times to get furniture. And it's kind of similar to like in
Terrible.
our
Yes.
planning a wedding episode, where you kind of had to make decisions where in a perfect world, like you're like, this isn't how I thought it was going to be. And so when we were moving into this apartment, we were living in a rental, and we initially had signed a 6-month lease for that, because like I was like still working this job that was remote, but it was COVID. So it's like at any point, like I could have to be based in Dallas. And so I was like, Drew, like I will come up to New Jersey for 6 months, and we can live together and just, figure it out when the world goes back to normal, like where we end up living. And so 6 months turned into a year in that apartment. But our landlord, we didn't have any furniture because I'd sold all my furniture in Charlotte. Drew had sold his North Carolina furniture. He had been living at home for a couple months during like peak 2020. And so we had no furniture. It was only supposed to be 6 months. And the landlord was like, we'll leave this sofa for you. Like, that's fine. Like, we'll write it into the lease. We ended up destroying the sofa with George, but story for another time. But it was an IKEA sofa, and it was so uncomfortable. It was awful. I literally never relaxed in that apartment because it was just so painful to sit on. But when we moved into our new apartment, I was like, we literally don't have a sofa to put on the moving truck. Like, the sofa has to stay. It's our landlord's. And at that point, we not like, I mean, it took a month to close. We knew we were buying an apartment, but it's like, you don't want to place an order, like you don't have the apartment for sure. Cause it's like, what if it doesn't fit in whatever space you end up in? And so we were like, we're just going to get like another IKEA sofa that's in stock that we can pick up for now, and figure out what kind of sofa we want. And like, it did kind of suck because the sofa we ended up the one we got from IKEA was like small for the space, and we could have had a much bigger one. It was much more comfy than the one we'd had before, but it still was an IKEA sofa. Like it was not that expensive. It was like under $1,000, I think. But we took like a long time to figure out what we wanted, and we wanted to feel good about, investing that much money. And so I think it's okay if things take time, and it's
And
okay to
you're
live
going
in
to make mistakes. I mean, you can't beat
yeah.
yourself up about, I mean, that's the thing. It's like,
Well, that's what
would
I'm
I have,
working on in therapy, is it's okay to make mistakes.
yeah. And sometimes the thing is, you already bought the damn sofa. It's like, don't beat yourself up about it. If it's not working out, do your best. If you can, do something different, live with it, make peace with it. It's a little bit like what they say about your wardrobe, right? If you're like, oh, I shouldn't have bought this, and something's hanging in your closet with the tags on it, and you pass the point which you can return it. It's like, if you're never going to wear it, having it hang in your closet isn't going to help it either, right? Donate it, try to do a resale on it. But it's like, you do have to sometimes just move on from it. I mean, I don't think, there's definitely things I have bought over time. Some of them are still in my house that I was like, oh, maybe that wasn't the right purchase. But again, I do think the last couple of years have been interesting, because if we moved into our house the week the pandemic was declared.
Well, you've also been spending more time at home.
That's the thing. I mean, we have been home a lot. So you feel like you want to work on your space more. But yeah, I mean, there was things that we ordered that had 9 months until they came in. And then you're kind of like, I don't even remember what I ordered, right? Is this even what I want anymore? I mean, so I think you just have to give yourself a little bit of a break over that. Your style will evolve. And I don't think you have to have like just one style. Like, let yourself evolve. And, I think one of the other things we were talking about is like our favorite design shows. I mean, I love so many of the design shows. They may not be my style, but just the way in which they're thinking about things, I find that very helpful, right? Thinking about the space, how to use the space. Some of them are doing things that I absolutely would never do, but then I might look at it and go, okay, it is really cool to have an accent wall, or it is really cool to, add a little seating area in a room where you wouldn't think you would have it. So I mean, it definitely gives me good ideas. It's a balance though. Like, you don't want it to be that you're like always coveting something else and you can't be happy with what you have.
Yeah. And I think that's maybe where I fall more into the trap. And I would say I've gotten away, or not away, like I just don't have cable. Like I have all the streaming services or whatever. Like I can watch HGTV on something I have, I think, but I don't really watch shows. But I follow a lot of the designers that I like Studio McGee. There's this place in California. There's two of them. It's like Pure Salt Interiors and Eye for Pretty. Like I love their style, and I follow them on Instagram. And it's like every time they post something, I'm like, okay, like I need new dining room chairs, or I want to paint my bathroom cabinet that color. And so it's like at some point, and this is also, my therapist would be so proud that I'm thinking about this, is like you have to be content with your space.
Yes.
And so like I was just telling Drew when we were talking about the paint colors at dinner tonight, like if we paint the cabinets or whatever, and I was like, I probably should just paint them white, because that's really what I wanted when we moved in. Like it's okay to just like make a decision and stick with it. Like it's okay.
Right. Yeah.
And so
it's like when you go out to a restaurant and you see what you want to order on the menu, but you talk yourself out of it, and then you spend the entire time wishing you had just ordered it.
You should do the first thing you wanted. Yes.
Exactly.
And so I think, and it's the same thing like we talking about planning a wedding, social media these days, like, and Pinterest for home situations, like it is just like an unending funnel. Like you could type in white kitchen cabinets and you would just have like hours of scrolling to see the different cabinet faces, the different hardware styles, like all of that. And it's like at the end of the day, like all I needed was like I wanted to just see like what black hardware looked like on white cabinets. Like I don't need to be scrolling for 10 hours and all of that. So it's like it's okay. Just make a decision and stick with it. Like unless you're an influencer or something, like no, only your friends and your family are like seeing your apartment. Like it's not like you need
but
an Instagram worthy house.
I do have to make one comment about design shows. Okay, it's not necessarily a design show. One of my absolute favorite shows to watch on HGTV is House Hunters. That's because I'm addicted to moving around a lot, and probably will be, moving around still some. But the one thing that always gets me on House Hunters is like everybody looking for a house seems to want to entertain. They're like, we need this space for entertaining. I need this space. And I'm thinking, like, how often are people really entertaining? I mean, I'm not a huge entertainer, but it's like, if you look at house hunters, it's like everybody's having parties left and right and need all this space to entertain. I just find it so fascinating. How much are people really entertaining?
I think, and this is not saying anything about you, but I think a lot because no, because think about it, like we don't all live close by. But like you were talking about earlier, like if you were living in a super traditional house, it was super sectioned off and whatever. Like imagine a world where like all of us, like my sisters and I, now our husbands, and you know, in the next few years, maybe we'll start having kids. All of us live somewhere close by. And it's like we got together regularly on like Sundays for dinner. Like
Oh, that
maybe
sounds so fun. Let's do
yeah,
that.
maybe you're not like throwing a party, but it's like you need that open floor plan for entertaining because like when your family comes over, you want to be able to see them when you're cooking. Like I think that's what
Okay,
they mean
true,
by entertaining.
true.
It's not like, oh my God, I'm having like a theme party every week, but it's more so like I have friends that live in the neighborhood and they come over with their kids and stuff like that, where it's like that's your entertaining. Like people are just over, not necessarily like you're having like a
That's
formal
true.
party where you need
Maybe I'm taking it too literally.
yeah, but I think when I think about entertaining, that's what I mean. Like, okay, people came over, like, am I in the kitchen all by myself? And they're like having to sit in some other room while
Right.
like you know,
Luckily for you, it's all one space.
luckily, unless they're in the bathroom or getting in my bed, we are all together. They
So
probably
true.
wish there was more divide.
You
They're
have
probably
a
like, oh my God,
balcony.
George is like launching himself on me and like I can hear the toilet running, like,
Oh my gosh, too much. Well,
well,
listen, I think the most important thing is that people do what they feel like works for them. Nobody should be shamed about whether they have
no
color
one.
or not have color,
You
whatever they
get that gray
spend.
flooring.
Yeah, I mean, if people want gray flooring, who cares? I mean, and the trend thing, I mean, you got to live with your choices. So it's like if you do something super quote unquote trendy and then you don't like it, you've got to be able to undo it. So maybe like have a little thought about, is it something very hard to undo like tile, or very easy like paint? Paint is easy to fix. I mean,
Mhm.
relatively speaking, right? Flooring, not so much. Built cabinets, not so much. So it's like, pick and choose your battles. But, I think it's got to work in your space. And to your point, it has a big impact on mental health. Your space does, I think. So
100%.
you've got to make decisions that are good for your mental health, not for, someone on Instagram or, somebody that doesn't live with you about what they think it should be.
And I think a lot of that can be budget friendly. So like this is our last thing before we wrap up, because I know this is kind of a long episode, but when we lived in our old apartment in Hoboken, like nothing was wrong with it. Like it was, I mean, I know you, and now I like realize like my mother-in-law also, like I think you guys all thought it was like kind of a shitty apartment, but like Drew and I were like, it's fine. It could be a lot worse.
It
And
has benefits.
it served a purpose, but it had these like 90s wood cabinets, this like green formica type countertop, or I don't know if it was formica, but it was laminate or something. It was not like a stone countertop. It was green. And like every day I'd be like, I effing hate these countertops, or like, I hate this kitchen. And like, yes, I was in, you have to recognize your privilege. I have a roof over my head. I live in this great area, whatever. But I didn't like spending time. And it was during a phase of like COVID, and up here, like, I feel like we moved up here in winter 2021, like before people were fully vaccinated, like it felt a lot different than if you were living in Texas or Florida. Like you were out with
Right.
your mask, social distancing. So you were spending a lot of time at home still. And I was just like, I just don't like the space I live in. It's not me. We have this like sofa I didn't pick out. It's our landlord, all of that. But there are a lot of stuff you can do on a budget to like improve your space. Like you guys came up and we got like an IKEA table with some chairs that I like better, all for like
Yep.
maybe $300. Like again, not a small amount of money, but in the grand scheme of things, like very affordable, and it made a huge difference. And it's like, okay, if I keep like my counters really clean, like it just looks like less like a dated kitchen than if it's really cluttered and stuff like that. So it's like there are a lot of things you can do within a budget. You don't need to be a homeowner to have an apartment or a house you like.
Right.
But it's just being more mindful about knowing like, okay, like maybe the color on my wall is not what I want it, but like I can pick out my like bedspread that I really like and stuff like
Right.
that. Like just like you got to treat yourself. You got to like your home. You got to feel comfortable in it. Like it's an investment in your happiness.
And I think, yeah, I mean, less is more, right? Start with one thing and just kind of
You
add
hear
to
that,
it.
Abby? Clean out that kitchen. Less is more.
Listen, when I get back from this 2-month trip, I do feel like I need to do some purging or editing, excuse me, editing.
No, I know. Well, okay, wrapping it up. I think I know you look forward to the day that I bring some color into my apartment, but today is not that day.
No, no pressure. I love your apartment. I think you guys have done a fabulous job. So I think if you never want to have anything other than beige and white, I am all about it.
No, I don't really like beige, but white is fine. But I mean, I'm a work in progress. But thanks for tuning in. This episode is actually officially our 10th episode, which is funny.
This is our 10th episode. I can't believe it.
I know, and again, like anyone who's had a podcast will know, like you're kind of just putting content out and like hoping people find it, or maybe like I'm not hoping people find this. I don't know. But
Wait,
it's
didn't you say? I mean, I think we're just short of like 250 downloads though.
yeah, and I think and it's such like a
Who are
long
these people? I want to know who they are.
no, I know. And it's like I think a podcast is kind of like YouTube. It's like long form content. Like you have to put a lot out consistently before like people actually find it.
Yes.
But on our first so like each episode like progressively gets more and more listens each week. But the first ones we put out at the beginning, maybe a month ago, like those have like over 50 listens. And I'm like, who are these 50 people?
I don't
Like
know.
each like
I would love to hear from them.
so I'm like, they had to come back. I'm like, oh my God, we're so famous. But yeah, so this is our 10th episode. In my mind, I'm like, if we can release more than 12 episodes, we will beat Meghan and Harry, who canceled their podcast after only 12 episodes.
Oh my God. Oh, well, we're doing it now. Now you just threw down the gauntlet.
I
And
know.
we are committed because here I am sitting in a hotel room on a 2-month road trip, making this happen. And I know you are moving things around to make it happen. So we're committed. We're going to keep at this. We're going to get better
here.
too. We're going to get better.
Or going to get less scattered.
Yes.
But if you're enjoying the show, we would love for you to leave us a 5-star review to help other people find our lovely rants once a week. If you're listening and you like it, tell your friends about it. I would say you can check us out on Instagram, but as I protect my mental health, I couldn't handle recording this podcast, editing it, and making Instagram content. So our Instagram's a little bit quiet right now, but maybe one day. But, come back next week, every Wednesday, to hear us dive into another topic on our minds.
All right. Well, Maddie, as always, thank you for keeping me on track with our recording sessions. And for what it's worth, love your style, love your sister's style. Everybody just you do you and make your space work for you.
Thanks, Mom. This was so enjoyable as always, and talk to you later.
Talk to you later.